So long as a man will not set himself to obey the word spoken, the word written, the word printed, the word read of the Lord Christ, I would not take the trouble to convince him concerning the most obnoxious doctrines that they were false as hell. It is those who would fain believe, but who by such doctrines are hindered, whom I would help. Disputation about things but hides the living Christ, who alone can teach the truth, who is the truth, and the knowledge of whom is life. I write for the sake of those whom the false teaching that claims before all to be true has driven away from God, as well it might, for the God so taught is not a God worthy to be believed in. A stick, or a stone, or a devil, is all that some of our brethren of mankind have to believe in. He who believes in a God not altogether unselfish and good, a God who does not do all he can for his creatures, belongs to the same class. His is not the God who made the heaven, and the earth, and the sea, and the fountains of water, not the God revealed in Christ. If a man see in God any darkness at all, and especially if he defend that darkness, attempting to justify it as one who respects the person of God, I cannot but think his blindness must have followed his mockery of Lord, Lord. Surely, if he had been strenuously obeying Jesus, he would ere now have received the truth that God is light, and in him is no darkness. A truth which is not acknowledged by calling the darkness attributed to him light, and the candle of the Lord in the soul of man darkness. It is one thing to believe that God can do nothing wrong, quite another to call whatever presumption may attribute to him right. The whole secret of progress is the doing of the thing we know. There is no other way of progress in the spiritual life, no other way of progress in the understanding of that life. Only as we do can we know. Is there anything you will not leave for Christ? You cannot know him, and yet he is the truth, the one thing alone that can be known. Do you not care to be imperfect? Would you rather keep this or that with imperfection than part with it to be perfect? You cannot know Christ, for the very principle of his life was the simple absolute relation of realities. His one idea was to be a perfect child to his Father. He who will not part with all for Christ is not worthy of him, and cannot know him, and the Lord is true, and cannot acknowledge him. How could he receive to his house, as one of his kind, a man who prefers something to his Father, a man who is not for God, a man who will strike a bargain with God and say, I will give up so much, if thou wilt spare me? To yield all to him who has only made us and given us everything, yea, his very self by life and by death, such a man counts too much. His conduct says, I never asked thee to do so much for me, and I cannot make the return thou demandest. The man will have to be left to himself. He must find what it is to be without God. Those who know God, or have begun to catch a far-off glimmer of his gloriousness, of what he is, regard life as insupportable save God be the all in all, the first and the last.